"It's over. We're ruined." The servant's voice trembled as he whispered the devastating news into the father's ear. At this moment, in this crowded room filled with laughter and celebration, a family's legacy was about to collapse. The wine had run out. Not a drop remained. In first-century Judea, this wasn't just an inconvenience. It was catastrophic. A cultural disgrace so severe it would haunt 3 generations. The whispers would follow them forever. Remember the family that couldn't provide? That humiliated their guests? That broke the sacred code of hospitality? The father's face drained of color as the terrible truth sank in. His son's wedding, meant to establish their family's honor, would instead become the story of their greatest shame. Everything they'd worked for, saved for, sacrificed for, shattered in a single moment of devastating lack. But in the corner of that room stood a man no one was watching, an uninvited guest whose presence would transform everything, a craftsman's son who had never revealed his true nature until now. Welcome to Hidden Heroes of Faith, where we uncover extraordinary stories of ordinary people whose lives were forever changed by encountering God. What if your greatest crisis was actually the doorway to your greatest miracle? What if the moment when everything falls apart is precisely when everything can come together in ways you never imagined possible? This is the hidden story of what happened when ordinary water became extraordinary wine, and why this first miracle reveals the heart of Jesus in ways most people completely miss. Have you ever watched everything falling apart around you? That hollow feeling in your stomach when you realize you don't have enough, not enough money, not enough time, not enough strength to meet the crisis bearing down on you. The family at Cana felt that same crushing weight. Their carefully planned celebration was unraveling. The wine was gone, the guests were still drinking, and in their culture, this failure meant not just temporary embarrassment, but permanent shame. Let me take you back to that moment, to a dusty village in Galilee, where an ordinary celebration was about to become the site of an extraordinary revelation. The sun beat down on the small village of Cana as the wedding celebration entered its 3rd day. The narrow streets echoed with music and laughter. Inside the groom's family home, tables groaned under platters of food. Guests reclined on cushions, their faces flushed with joy and wine. Mary, mother of Jesus, moved through the crowded room with the awareness that comes from raising children and managing households. She noticed what others missed: the strained expression on the face of the wine steward, the nervous glances between servants, the way they tilted the wine jugs a little too desperately, trying to coax out the last drops. She knew immediately what was happening. The wine was running out. In our world, this might mean a quick trip to the store. In first-century Galilee, it meant disaster. Wedding celebrations lasted 7 days. Running out of wine halfway through wasn't just inconvenient. It violated the sacred duty of hospitality. It would brand this family as failures, as people who couldn't provide. The shame would follow them for generations. Mary moved quietly through the crowd toward her son Jesus. He sat with his newly called disciples, ordinary men still trying to understand who this teacher really was. They had seen no miracles yet, no demonstrations of divine power. Until this moment, Jesus had lived as a craftsman in Nazareth, known, respected, but not yet revealed. Mary leaned close to her son's ear. 5 simple words that carried the weight of a family's honor. They have no more wine. Jesus turned to her, his response seemingly distant. "Woman, why do you involve me? My hour has not yet come." His words weren't disrespectful. Woman was a term of respect. But they revealed tension, a boundary being established. This was not just a son responding to his mother's request. This was divine purpose negotiating with human need. But Mary knew something the others didn't. She had carried this child beneath her heart, had witnessed the angelic pronouncement of his birth, had treasured 30 years of quiet moments that revealed his true nature. She turned to the servant standing nearby and spoke with quiet confidence. Do whatever he tells you. 5 words that unlocked the impossible. 5 words that demonstrated perfect faith. She didn't know what Jesus would do, didn't try to direct his actions. She simply trusted that whatever he commanded would be the answer. And then she walked away, leaving the crisis in his hands. Jesus rose slowly from his place in the table. His eyes fell on 6 massive stone water jars standing against the wall. These weren't drinking vessels. They were ceremonial jars used for ritual purification, for the washing of hands and utensils required by Jewish law. Each held 20 to 30 gallons, huge, heavy containers that took strength just to move when empty. Fill the jars with water, Jesus said to the servants. Imagine their confusion. The family needed wine, not water for washing hands. This command solved nothing obvious, but Mary's words echoed in their minds. Do whatever he tells you. So they obeyed, though it made no sense. They carried water from the village well, jar after heavy jar, trip after exhausting trip under the hot Galilean sun, pouring gallons of ordinary water into those massive stone containers. They filled them to the brim. Nearly 150 gallons of water in total. Not a drop of wine in sight. When the last jar was filled, Jesus gave another simple command. Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. The master of the banquet was waiting for wine, not washing water. To bring him water would announce the family's failure and shame. Can you feel the servant's terror as he dipped his cup into that jar? His hand likely trembled, knowing that carrying water to the banquet master might cost him his position. But something happened when the cup broke the water surface. The clear liquid that entered his cup emerged as rich red wine. Not gradually, not partially, transformed completely in an instant. Imagine that moment of shock, of disbelief, the servant staring at his cup, unable to process what his eyes were seeing. Water had become wine. Ordinary had become extraordinary. Emptiness had become abundance. With trembling hands, he carried the cup to the banquet master, the official responsible for overseeing the quality of the feast. This man knew nothing of the crisis or its solution. He took the cup, sipped, and his eyes widened with surprise. He called the bridegroom over and said words that revealed the true magnitude of this miracle. Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. Not just wine, the best wine. Better than what had been served first. Better than what the wealthy family had provided from their own resources. This wasn't just adequate provision, it was extravagant abundance. Most of the wedding guests never knew about the crisis, never knew how close the celebration came to disaster, never knew about the miracle that unfolded just steps away. But the servants knew. Mary knew. And the disciples, watching silently, began to understand who Jesus truly was. Scripture tells us this was the first of Jesus's miraculous signs. John writes, "He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him." Why would Jesus choose this moment for his first public miracle? Why water into wine? The answer reveals layers of meaning that transform our understanding. Those 6 stone jars weren't ordinary containers. They held water for purification rituals, for the ceremonial washing required by Jewish law. They represented the old system, the old covenant. For centuries, God's people had followed a system of ritual cleansing, of sacrifices, of trying to wash away impurity. A system that could never fully cleanse, never fully transform. By turning water for purification into wine for celebration, Jesus wasn't just solving a problem, he was making a declaration. The old system would give way to something new, something better, something that truly transforms from the inside out. Wine in Scripture often symbolizes joy, abundance, and blessing. It represents the fullness of God's kingdom. Jesus didn't just meet a need, he brought extravagance. Nearly 150 gallons of the finest wine, enough for the entire celebration and beyond. And the timing is no accident. This miracle came at a wedding, the most powerful picture of covenant relationship. Jesus began his public ministry by showing that he came to establish a new covenant, one that would transform everything it touched. The miracle at Cana was more than a kindness to a desperate family. It was Jesus declaring his identity and purpose. It was the first glimpse of glory breaking through the ordinary. This story offers us profound lessons for our own moments of crisis and emptiness. First, Mary shows us the power of bringing our needs directly to Jesus. She didn't try to solve the problem herself. She didn't pretend everything was fine. She simply stated the need, "They have no more wine." When we face our own emptiness, our first response should be to bring that need honestly and directly to Jesus. No pretending, no self-reliance, just the simple truth of our inadequacy. Second, Mary demonstrates perfect faith when she tells the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." She doesn't know what Jesus will do. She doesn't dictate the solution. She simply trusts that whatever he commands will be the answer. How often do we bring our problems to God but then insist on our preferred solution? Mary shows us the path of true faith, complete trust in whatever Jesus commands, even when it doesn't make sense to us. Third, the servants teach us the importance of immediate, complete obedience. They didn't argue. They didn't half-heartedly obey. They filled those massive jars to the brim, an exhausting task, without understanding how it could possibly help. Breakthroughs often come when we obey fully, even when the command seems disconnected from our need. The miracle didn't happen until the servants completed their act of obedience. Fourth, this miracle reminds us that transformation happens at the point of contact between our obedience and Jesus' power. The water became wine precisely when these two elements met, human obedience encountering divine capability. We bring what we have, our emptiness, our inadequacy, our ordinary resources, and Jesus transforms them into something extraordinary. But the transformation doesn't happen until we offer what we have. Finally, Jesus reveals that his provision is always better than what we could arrange ourselves. The wine he provided wasn't just a substitute, it was superior to what had been served before. When we allow Jesus to meet our needs in his way and his timing, we discover that his solution isn't just adequate, it's abundant. It isn't just functional, it's excellent. So what does this 2,000-year-old miracle mean for you today? We all face moments when our resources run dry, when our best efforts fall short, when we stand before empty jars that we cannot fill. Maybe you're there right now. The money has run out. The relationship has crumbled. The health report came back with devastating news. Your strength is gone. Your hope is fading. The miracle at Cana reminds us that Jesus specializes in transforming emptiness into abundance, in creating possibility where there seems to be none, in taking what is ordinary and making it extraordinary. But the transformation begins when we acknowledge our emptiness, when we stop pretending we have what we need, when we bring our empty vessels to Jesus and say, "We have no more wine." What is Jesus asking you to do today? What step of obedience stands between your emptiness and His abundance? What instruction seems illogical but might be the very thing that positions you for transformation? There's a profound paradox in this story that we often miss. The miracle required empty vessels. If those jars had been full of water, of wine, of anything, there would have been no space for the miracle. Their emptiness wasn't just a problem to be solved, it was the necessary condition for transformation. And so it is with us, our emptiness, those places where we've run dry, where we have nothing left to give, where our resources have failed. These aren't obstacles to God's power. They're opportunities for His provision. Our culture tells us that emptiness is failure, that need is weakness, that we should hide our inadequacy behind masks of self-sufficiency. But the miracle at Cana proclaims the opposite truth. Emptiness acknowledged becomes the womb of the miraculous. Need honestly expressed becomes the doorway to abundance. The family at Cana didn't need Jesus when their wine barrels were full. They needed Him precisely when they ran out. Their crisis became the canvas for His glory. Later in His ministry, Jesus would declare, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full life that overflows its boundaries. Life that spills over with abundance." Jesus chose the ordinary as the vessel for the extraordinary. He poured His glory into common clay pots. And He still does today. You don't need to be special, talented, or powerful for Jesus to work miracles through your life. You just need to be available, empty, obedient, ready to do whatever He tells you. The wedding at Cana continued in joy because someone noticed the emptiness and brought it to Jesus. Because servants obeyed instructions that made no sense. Because water submitted to its Creator's power and became something new. And the same miracle awaits us today. Not literally water into wine, but the same fundamental transformation. Emptiness into fullness. Ordinary into extraordinary. Impossibility shattered by divine intervention. Your empty bank account. Your failing relationship. Your broken health. Your shattered dreams, your fading hope. These aren't the end of your story. They're the beginning of a miracle waiting to happen. Thank you for watching. It has been on Hidden Heroes of Faith. If this message spoke to you, please subscribe and like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Leave a comment below.